Welcome to the Maria Sanchez Show right here on KADYTV.com. Don't adjust your color. This is the new look. Yes, it's me. Hi. Thank you so much for joining us. We've had a huge busy week. If you go to our website, you'll see where we've been and what we've been up to. We've been out in the community a fair amount as well. And we're always willing to do that. So if you give us a heads up so we know what's going on and when, that gives us a better chance to juggle our calendar and our personnel. Speaking of being out in the community, a week from last night, so that would be this coming Thursday night, we will be simulcasting live from the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library, and guess who's going to be there? President George W. Bush. His book is just out this week. He's been doing a huge media blitz. He's including the Ronald Reagan Library in his book tour, and as we are the designated broadcast outlet for Ventura County, we will be there. It's sold out, but you don't have to worry. You just look at the luxury of your home or in your office. You can see President Bush's speech. It starts at 6 o'clock. We have to be there for a security detail. They're going to wand us after we set up at 3:45, so it's likely that our program will not air at 4 o'clock this coming Thursday because of that. So if that's the reason, it's because, and we'll let you know via the website, which we're still working on the website. We're trying to make it even more easy to navigate, to find your particular episodes, if you will, that you've been looking for. And we do appreciate your comments because it's your criticisms, if you will, that come in that help us adjust the show. So without further ado, if it's Friday, that means that we have our in-studio guest, our pet correspondent, Nina Rubin, with us. Nina,
Hi.
welcome.
Hi, Maria. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. And Nina was just explaining, she got in here right before we started, and since it's live television, we were going to go with or without Nina, knowing that she was on her way, because she is as right as rain, and we confirmed today too. But you had a mattress delivered today, of all days. You could have had it delivered any day this week without complications, right?
Yes.
So she had to wait for her husband to get home in order to leave, and here she is.
Yes.
Yes. Now, Nina's our pet correspondent. She visits with us every Friday. The main thrust of Nina's visit with us is to promote adoptions from no-kill shelters of pets. We focus primarily on dogs, sometimes cats, but there are birds, and there's tortoises, and there's horses.
And bunnies and
bunnies.
whatever's in the shelters at the time.
Yeah, so that's the thrust of it. Why don't we handle that? And then we're going to go into a discussion of a horrific, age-old practice that's going on in Asia that involves mammals, and we'll just leave it at that, and then we'll get into more details if you don't know about what we're talking about.
Okay, so today
Wait, Rod, you want to put those pictures up? Because Nina's going to be talking about them. Thank you.
Okay, today I'm going to discuss two dogs that I have up for adoption. Okay, the first one is, that's Libby. Libby is a 1-year-old, 8.4-pound Chihuahua, and Libby gets along well with other dogs. She's recommended for children over the age of toddlerhood. Now, I'm glad that we brought Libby up first because there is an issue with Chihuahuas right now. If you recall the movie that was out, I think it was about 18 months ago, Beverly Hills
Yes.
Chihuahua. And
Don't tell me.
we are so overpopulated with Chihuahuas, which generally happens when a movie comes out specializing in one particular dog. Everybody wants that dog. And Chihuahuas are great little dogs, but they have several personality quirks. They tend to be a one-human dog.
Really?
Yes. They love their owners, but they can tend to be snippy with other family members or strangers.
Interesting.
And I speak from experience because my daughter has a Chihuahua, and unfortunately he was an abused Chihuahua. So when she adopted him, and she was recommended not to take him, but she fell in love with him and she took him. And you know how good I am with animals. Well, when she first brought Leo into our house, Leo practically took my hand off.
Really?
I swear to you. And I begged her to bring him back to the shelter, and there was a little girl dog there. She wanted him. She went on a Sunday to take him, and I begged her, please take him back. And there was a little girl Chihuahua that was available 3 days later on Tuesday, but my daughter insisted that she must keep him. And
she wanted a Chihuahua?
She wanted a Chihuahua. She wanted a little pocketbook dog, dog she could carry around. And, she kept bringing him to my house, and subsequently from her living alone with her fiance, she came back to my house, and Leo had been living in my house for over a year, and it took me over a year to warm him over
Oh my
so that
goodness.
Mark and I could touch him together. And he's still, if I'm holding him, he'll start to snarl a little bit if Mark comes over to pet him.
Really?
Yes. And she's now living out of the house, but I do doggy daycare with him. And I've gotten him to the point where he will lay in between my legs if I'm resting on the bed, or he'll come up and he'll crawl up my lap. But it's been a year and a half that I'm working with him to win him over. Now, he's not the norm because he was abused before we got him.
Mm-hmm.
But, they were, when I was looking on Canine Pals' website to pick our 2 dogs for today, there must have been 18 chihuahuas up for adoption.
Wow. Now, you know what? You're making me think about another segment that we should have, because Nina knows more than anybody that I know that knows animals. But you're mentioning that specific breeds have specific traits.
Yes.
And it would be nice for us to feature every week a different breed. Because then our viewers could make up their mind if they are looking for an animal, not just one of the 2 that we're going to share,
absolutely.
that it might not be, that breed might not be the right match for their household.
Exactly. And on
Cool.
that note, our second dog that I'm going to feature, if we can bring that one up.
Yeah.
Bring him up. Oh, that one, Waldo. Waldo is a Cairn Terrier. Now, Cairns are popular because that was Toto in The Wizard of Oz.
Ooh.
Now, the Cairns have a special place in my heart because Mark and I had a Cairn Terrier, Casey, which is how I met you, because you had a Casey. Cairns are a terrier, as I said, Cairn Terrier. Terriers, that's another good breed, and terriers in all shapes or forms, and there are dozens of terriers in this world. Terriers are a scrappy type of dog. They can get into lots of trouble, but they are also the sweetest, most delicious type of dog that you could ever own.
Now, the Casey that Nina's referring to that we adopted from a shelter who was abused was a Jack Russell Terrier.
Yes,
And-
and I have one of those too.
And they're burrowers.
Yes.
Okay. But are terriers in general or just that?
There are certain terriers that are burrows, but terriers are active little dogs. They are very bright. This one in particular, this Cairn, walks well on a leash. He's very friendly with other dogs. He does get along with cats as well. And he is 1 to 2 years old. That face, I know that face is edible. He actually reminds me of my Casey, and he's 12 pounds. And he's recommended for children over the age of 10.
Now, this comes from the shelter, I know, but is it the families that are giving up these animals, did they write down some of those?
This particular shelter doesn't mention, hasn't mentioned why they were given up. Now, the only thing that I have to say about Cairn Terriers is that sometimes they are prone to kidney dysfunction, which is what happened to our dog. And one of the main things that I want to express to our viewers is we always thought that our Cairn Terrier had bad breath, and we used to get her teeth cleaned twice a year. And we subsequently found out that bad breath in dogs, if you've had their teeth cleaned, is indicative of a kidney malfunction.
Really?
Yes. Now, had we known that, but we were still in the novice stages of dog owning, had we known that, we could have addressed it at the beginning of the disease and gotten it under control before it was down to her last 15 months. I mean, actually, when she had her disease, we were told she had 3 months to live, and that's how I got involved in alternative therapies and extended her life by 15 months by doing alternative treatments with home cooking and supplements.
That's what makes Nina amazing, just amazing. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to speak about this horrific practice that goes on in Asia that is murdering. And I just also wanted to mention that Gerald Thomas is the one who is responsible for my transformation. And he is so with KADY-TV and our local that he is becoming a sponsor of the program.
How wonderful!
And as a small world as it is, Nina also.
But I'm going on Wednesday, so don't look today.
So it's a small world after all. And I met Jerry because when I had my radio program, we were doing a campaign it's akin to Locks for Love, but it was called Pantene. And Hilary Swank was the spokesperson for that campaign, where you grow your hair and then you cut it, and it goes to make real hair wigs for breast cancer survivors, of which my mother is one, and she actually got 3 of their wigs. And Jerry was cutting everybody's hair for free, and that's how I first met him. So not only is he a wildly talented man, he's got a huge heart, and he and his wife Mari are huge supporters of the community. And so about the county, by the county, for the county. We'll be right back. The Maria Sanchez Show is about the county, by the county, and for the county. Whether we are simulcasting live from the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library, checking in with the leaders of our communities, hearing from our elected officials, helping to promote public safety, preparedness, and wellness. We are here for the needs of Ventura County. The Maria Sanchez Show is also about entertainment and events, sharing information, creating awareness, and supporting those in need. Won't you join us as we rewrite the rules of local television on the Maria Sanchez Show at www.kadytv.com. Maria Sanchez back with you. It is Friday, November 12th, and we are live, as we are Monday through Friday from 4 to 5-ish, depending on guests, topics. We kind of just roll with the punches. Coming up next, our in-studio guest is going to be Michelle Neff Hernandez. She started an organization called Soaring Spirits Loss Foundation, and I'm going to let her share her story, but it's quite, I say, loss, recovery, and redemption is how I describe it, so you can guess what that is. And a small world about that story is that a listener of mine, when I had my radio show, we became pen pals via the email, and she was a widow. Widow was female, right? Yeah. She was a widow, and I had Michelle on the program, and she happened to be listening, and she contacted Michelle, and it actually helped her a lot, because this listener was like bedridden, depressed, like not get out of the house kind of thing. So on lighter topics, just temporarily, we have Nina Rubin in studio with us. Nina's our pet correspondent. And Nina, why don't you mention the small world that we were discussing during the break, because I was giving Jerry Thomas. I know him as Gerald, but his salon is Gerald Thomas.
But we call him Jerry.
Yeah, for the hair. And Nina was saying
that Jerry and Mari are also involved in Search Dog Foundation. And one of their clients and friends is this woman, Amy, who's written a book on doggy cancer, who's also involved in Search Dog. So it's amazing that we're really also connected. You know, they say Ventura is a big city, small town, and it's really so amazing that we all have these connections and we're all involved in basically the same things.
Well, that's true of the county. We always talk about how we live in Mayberry, because it's, I mean, speaking of Mayberry, the sheriff-elect made an announcement yesterday, which I'm going to share with everybody in case you missed it, and he was the first guest on our program. And he is the sheriff of Mayberry. He actually is the sheriff-elect who gets installed. I'm speaking of Jeff Dean on January 3rd, Monday, which we're going to be there to broadcast that as well. So we're. Why don't you introduce?
Okay. Today, the main topic that we're going to discuss is the Cove. There was a documentary made a little over a year ago, about a year and a half ago, about the clubbing of dolphins in a little remote section of Japan. I believe it's pronounced Taiji.
That sounds right.
Yes.
It actually won an Academy Award.
Yes, last year. And it's a small little secluded cove where 20,000 dolphins are clubbed to death every year.
Now,
senselessly.
The 20,000 figure, as I understand, is throughout Japan, not necessarily in the cove. And I'm squeamish, and for a year I've been following this, but didn't have the guts to watch, and I finally decided, okay, you're a big girl, Maria, and you need to know this, instead of just read about it. Have you seen it?
Truthfully, I'm afraid to watch it.
I watched a little snippet again this afternoon. I almost threw up. and I was going to show it on just the 2 minutes. They did a condensed version, and I decided that would be too cruel.
It's very graphic
to the viewers.
Everything that I read about it, just as I was reading it, the tears were just rolling down my face, and it's not just the clubbing of the animals. It's what they're doing with the dolphins. They're passing the dolphin meat off as whale meat, and they're selling it to not just Japan, but all over Asia. And because the dolphins are high on the food chain, their mercury content is so absolutely high that they're finding that in parts of Asia where they're selling this meat, the children's levels of retardation are so high. The mercury levels.
Yeah.
It's so scary.
Well, the other thing that I understand is that they are, first of all, they don't just club them. What they do, I'm going to just synopsize this for you. They take fishing boats like 9 across, and they bang on metal so that it's like a pipe that goes into the ground, and they hit it. And what it does is it disorients them because it's affecting their hearing. So they start to get into the pack mentality because that's how they get safe. They're mammals, by the way. These are warm-blooded mammals, okay? They give live birth, they nurse, etc. And so their instinct is to protect one another from something that they don't know, so they get together, which is the whole point. So what these 9 ships do then is they keep, with the netting between them, they keep pushing them into this cove that Nina's talking about. Now, they do it at other places, but that's what this movie is about, the cove. So once they're trapped, basically, because there's this mesh fencing there, and then the shore. Then what they do is they frickin' harpoon them. They stab them, and there's blood, and at the end of the video, that entire body of water is blood red. Blood red. And they're not killing them when they're harpooning them, they're maiming them, and then you hear their impassioned squeals and cries of pain, of disorientation, of, help me out here, of all that sort. But before they do that, they hand pick dolphins that they sequester, and guess what they do with those? They ship them all over the world to marine parks. And when I learned that, I decided I am never, ever, ever again going to go to, and I'm going to name it, a SeaWorld.
Absolutely.
Or to a swim with the dolphin program, which they have at resorts all over the world. Because those are ones got saved.
Saved for captivity.
And then there was a video I watched too about a sea park in Asia, I think it was in Japan, where they had dolphins in the tank, and one dolphin kept trying to escape, and it finally jumped over the embankment onto the ground, and the other dolphins came to where that dolphin was floundering outside and it was like they were trying to help because they could see it was plexiglass.
And the scary part is that we know, because dolphins can be trained so easily, how bright they are.
Right.
So when they're in that captive situation, they know what's going on. Obviously, they're also swimming in their brethren's blood. It's horrifying. The whole thing is horrifying. And you have to give props to these gentlemen, the Oceanic Preservation Society, who made this film, because in order to make this film, they had to put hard drives inside of fake rocks, and they had to sneak into the cove and place these rocks. And then when they first started making this documentary, they had to go in before the guards who guarded this cove would be in there, and they had to place these rocks, and they would only get 5 minutes at a time on these several-hour hard drives, because these areas were so highly guarded that they would, even though the hard drives would take several hours worth of film, they had to do it before the patrol boats came in. They had to do it before the guards surrounded the area. So then, of course, as the time went on and they were able to sophisticate their equipment and their reconnaissance, they were able to get more film time on. And then they also had to have divers who, because they filmed underwater, who could hold their breath long enough to put these underwater cameras in so that they could film underwater.
And keep in mind, we're talking about compassionate, zealous folks. So imagine that they're surrounding themselves, like on the underwater shots, you see the blood coming, because it starts to ooze forward towards the shore as the surf comes in. Another footage that I saw today was they were slitting their throats, and they were still floundering because they will pull them onto land, and then they take the tail with a rope on it, and they're dragging it with a pickup truck and whatever to go wherever they're going while they're alive.
Right.
They're still alive.
It's just...
And by the way, this is a highly coveted position that is passed down to generations. Why? Because
they make
it's
money.
So lucrative.
It's so lucrative.
I forget the price tag, but I think it was like $150,000 a dolphin to go to the marine parks. Just amazing.
Well, the idea of is, I mean, the way it's listed on the internet is the word, the secret is out, spread the word. I mean, there are several different organizations to prevent this, as takepart.com, become a fan of Facebook, where you can just type in The Cove and you can become a Facebook fan.
Which is actually how I found out about it.
And you can also do a text 44144. Every text raises money for the dolphins.
Well, and then something you should know too is that they tried to get the Cove shown because a lot of the Japanese folks don't know this is practices going on.
They don't know this.
And so they tried to get the feature film to be shown in the theaters. It was embargoed. They finally got it into one theater. There's been such political tension about it. They held a press conference that turned out to be a sham, that they couldn't ask questions. They had to just participate as ostensibly they were working with the people. I mean, there's a lot of controversy. So I would suggest if you're on Facebook to go to the Cove to get more information. I also have seashepherd.org as one of my resources.
And SaveJapanDolphins.org. And the Earth Institute a week ago was on November 5th. The Earth Institute had Save the Dolphin Day here in the United States. And on the Cove website, they do sell Save the Dolphin t-shirts, Save the Japan Dolphins, so you can support the Institute so that they can continue making money to save the dolphins.
So, Nina Rubin, I'm sorry that we had to not give you such a very good news, but and we try to focus on as much good news as possible, but the truth is that it is about our planet, and it is about an animal, it is about a mammal, and that's why we were compelled to speak about it. You're watching the Maria Sanchez Show on KADYTV.com. When we come back, a few of Maria's musings and the Michelle Neff Hernandez.